in and around Southern California.
Dwight Yoakam is 68 years old, and for the first time in decades, he's finally breaking his silence. What he revealed has sent shockwaves through Nashville, because the truth behind his story is nothing like the polished image fans thought they knew. For years, rumors followed him, whispers about his rise, his battles, and the secrets behind the rhinestone suits and sharp twang. And now, Yoakam has confirmed what many long suspected. This isn't just another tale about guitars and Cadillacs. This is the real Dwight Yoakam, unfiltered, unpolished, and ready to speak. Before the world knew his name, Yoakam's path to stardom was brutal. In the late 70s and early 80s, while Nashville chased glossy trends, Dwight was grinding in dive bars across Southern California. His music didn't fit the mold. While others leaned into the pop country wave of the urban cowboy era, he clung to raw Bakersfield grit and rockabilly fire. It wasn't pretty, and it wasn't easy. Some nights he played 5 sets in smoky rooms where bottles flew across the stage, but he never flinched. Every fight, every rejection, every beer-stained floor only sharpened his edge. Nashville didn't want him. In 1976, Dwight tried his luck there, only to discover the industry had no interest in a rough-edged performer who couldn't be packaged into polished perfection. The business cared about songwriters and radio-ready acts, not wild stage energy. Instead of bending, Yoakam doubled down. He decided to break in from the outside, proving that real tradition and real risk could still shake the industry. That stubborn loyalty to his roots built him a small but fierce following long before his name ever touched the charts. So when Guitars, Cadillacs finally hit the airwaves, it wasn't just another debut. It was a battle cry, the sound of a man who had clawed his way through rejection and refused to compromise. Fans didn't just hear a song, they heard the fight behind it. And suddenly, Dwight Yoakam wasn't just another hopeful. He was the man reminding country music of its soul. By the time his album Guitars, Cadillacs, etc., dropped in 1986, the genre had grown numb from overproduced radio fluff. But Dwight came crashing through like a lightning bolt. Produced with Pete Anderson, the record channeled Bakersfield twang with rock and roll swagger. From the first note of Honky Tonk Man to the swaggering ache of Guitars, Cadillacs, listeners knew they weren't just hearing music. They were witnessing a revolution. Nashville had ignored him, but now he was unavoidable. The album went double platinum, and Dwight Yoakam was hailed as both a revivalist and a rebel. He no longer played grimy clubs in Los Angeles. Now he was selling out arenas. And yet, his message to Nashville was clear. You don't have to play by the rules to change the game. He had built a career by refusing to compromise, and his defiance would inspire an entire generation of artists after him. But Dwight's story didn't stop there. Years later, an unlikely name would walk into his life, changing his music in ways no one could have predicted. That name was Beck. Dwight Yoakam surprised many longtime fans when he teamed up with Beck, one of the most unlikely collaborators in country history. Tracks like Take Hold of My Hand and Rock It All Away didn't sound like experiments gone wrong. They sounded like revelations. Pedal steel guitars tangled with layered harmonies and daring rhythms, proving that tradition and innovation could exist side by side. For Yoakam, it was never about chasing trends. It was about breaking down creative walls while staying true to emotional honesty. The collaboration showed the world that he wasn't just a country purist. He was a risk-taker who could bend genres without breaking himself. What Beck gave Dwight wasn't reinvention. It was freedom. By pushing him to loosen up in the studio and let instinct lead the way, Beck reminded Yoakam that vulnerability was sometimes more powerful than polish. One of their most telling moments came when Beck insisted Dwight keep a raw scratch guitar take on A Heart Like Mine, capturing the immediacy of the emotion instead of smoothing it over. That one decision reshaped Dwight's mindset. Suddenly, he was back to creating the way he had in those early bar rooms, raw, fearless, and unfiltered. In hindsight, Beck wasn't just a partner. He was the spark that reignited Dwight Yoakam's appetite for risk and experimentation. But music was never Dwight's only form of storytelling. Long before country stardom, he had been drawn to the stage, not just as a singer, but as a performer. Early school plays and community theater hinted at another side of him, one that thrived on holding an audience's attention without a guitar in his hands. That seed would eventually grow into one of the most surprising second acts in country music. Dwight Yoakam, the actor. In 1996, Dwight stunned Hollywood with his chilling performance as Doyle Hargraves in Sling Blade. The role was dark, violent, and terrifyingly real, so convincing that audiences had to remind themselves it was the same man who sang Guitars, Cadillacs. That single role shattered expectations and proved Dwight wasn't just dabbling. He had serious acting chops. From there, the doors opened. He appeared in Panic Room, The Newton Boys, Crank, and made unforgettable appearances on shows like Under the Dome and Wilfred. What made Dwight's acting stand out was the same thing that made his music unforgettable: honesty. He didn't play characters as caricatures. He inhabited them, often broken, complicated men with jagged edges. His understated style carried the same grit and raw emotion as his songs, which is why every role felt lived in and authentic. Whether strumming in a honky-tonk or standing in front of a camera, Dwight Yoakam was always chasing truth. That search for truth also fueled one of the most overlooked battles of his career: his quiet feud with Nashville's music establishment. From the very beginning, Dwight refused to play by Music Row's rules. When everyone else leaned into the glossy, pop-driven urban cowboy sound, Dwight showed up in rhinestone suits, skin-tight jeans, and Bakersfield twang so sharp it cut through the noise. Nashville didn't know what to do with him. Executives thought he was too brash, too edgy, too different. But instead of waiting for their approval, Dwight went his own way. He built a following in Los Angeles rock clubs, partnered with producer Pete Anderson, and crafted a sound that mixed honky-tonk grit with rock and roll energy. The gamble paid off. Guitars, Cadillacs, etc., wasn't just a hit. It was a wake-up call to Nashville. There was still a hunger for authenticity, no matter how much the industry tried to bury it under polish and pop hooks. In the end, Dwight's so-called feud with Nashville wasn't about personal grudges. It was about vision. He forced the establishment to confront its own limits, expanding the genre's possibilities by proving that rebellion and tradition could coexist. Today, that legacy is clear. Country music is bigger, broader, and braver because Dwight Yoakam refused to play by the rules. Dwight Yoakam may have been branded an outsider at first, but his career proved that rebels often take country music the furthest. One of his most defining partnerships was with guitarist and producer Pete Anderson, the man behind the Bakersfield-inspired sound of Guitars, Cadillacs, etc. For nearly 20 years, their collaboration was golden, until it collapsed in 2004. Anderson sued Yoakam for breach of contract after canceled concerts, exposing deeper business tensions that had been simmering for years. The case was settled quietly, but the damage was done. Their breakup ended one of country's greatest creative duos and forced Dwight to take more control of his own production, changing the sound fans had come to love. That fight over business foreshadowed a much bigger battle years later. In 2021, Yoakam took on Warner Music Group, demanding the return of rights to his debut album under copyright law. He accused the label of ignoring his termination notices and exploiting his early recordings without consent. Though the case never went to trial, A 2022 settlement suggested Yoakam had regained at least some control over his legacy. It was more than a legal win. It was a statement about ownership and a warning to labels that even decades later, artists will fight for what's rightfully theirs. But not every risk Dwight took paid off. In 2000, he poured his heart, soul, and money into South of Heaven, West of Hell, a Western he wrote, directed, produced, scored, and starred in. Despite a star-studded cast, critics slammed the film as disjointed and overly ambitious. Worse, financial backers dropped out mid-production, leaving Dwight to fund it himself. The movie flopped, leaving him in debt and straining relationships with longtime associates. What was meant to be his bold Hollywood crossover became instead a cautionary tale of how even the most fearless artists can overreach. Dwight Yoakam may have stumbled with South of Heaven, West of Hell, but the film remains a testament to his fearless drive. Critics called it flawed, yet fans and historians now see it less as a failure and more as proof that Dwight would never play it safe. The experience, costly as it was, only reinforced his determination to stay true to his vision. As an actor, Yoakam's range has been just as bold. His chilling turn as Doyle Hargraves in Sling Blade shocked audiences, while roles in Panic Room and Under the Dome revealed a darker, quieter menace. He balanced that intensity with lighter moments, stealing scenes in Wedding Crashers and bringing eccentric humor to Wilfred. To Dwight, acting isn't about fame. It's another way to tell stories with the same honesty that fuels his music. Both crafts demand vulnerability, both hinge on rhythm and emotional truth, and both have shaped him into a sharper storyteller. Now at 68, Dwight shows no signs of slowing. He tours, records, and hosts the Bakersfield Beat on Sirius XM, spotlighting the roots of country while championing new voices. Younger artists look to him as a mentor, proof that tradition and innovation can coexist. And while music remains his heartbeat, Dwight's future may yet see him directing or producing, extending his storytelling into new forms. His legacy is still unfolding, but one thing is certain. Whether holding a guitar or stepping onto a film set, Dwight Yoakam remains an original. Raw, restless, and unafraid of the road ahead. Dwight Yoakam's future isn't just about his music, it's about his evolving bond with fans. The audience that first embraced him decades ago is still here, loyal as ever. But now, a whole new generation is discovering his catalog through streaming, collaborations, and a growing love for traditional country sounds. That crossover appeal shows the timelessness of Yoakam's craft, the way his songwriting continues to connect, no matter the decade. With his growing online presence and reputation as a no-frills, authentic performer, Dwight Yoakam stands as a bridge between tradition and today, proving that true talent doesn't fade. It only deepens with age. Thanks for watching this deep dive into Dwight Yoakam's controversies and legacy. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, hit that like button to show your support. Do you have personal memories tied to Dwight's music, or thoughts on his journey? Drop them in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss another untold story from music history. Before you go, tap the next video on your screen. There's more waiting for you.